Hi, I'm Frankie. Today, I would like to share with you my experience facilitating the practice of knowledge management learning for international participants, organized by CCOP Technical Secretariat, Bangkok, Thailand. And CCOP, if you look here, it stands for Coordinating Committee for Geoscience Programs in East and Southeast Asia. My professional association with CCOP Technical Secretariat started in June 2005 when two of their key staff participated in my POKM program in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So after we have met each other, they have completed the programs. We had a lot of dialogue session, and subsequently that led eventually to the implementation of two very major, very highly customized POKM programs. One in May 2007 that was organized in Pattaya, Thailand, and the second program in January 2008 that was organized in Bangkok, Thailand. So at this point of time, what I'll do is that I will talk a bit more about the June 2005 program that these two key staff attended. Alright, now, but here I have the documents relating to the focus of this program. Now, the title of the program was The Practice of Knowledge Management in Petroleum Resource Management in June 2005, and the two key staff that completed this program, they were, firstly, Mr. Chen Sekpay, a Malaysian, Director of Petroleum Policy and Management PPM Project, CCOP, Technical Secretariat, Thailand. And the other key staff was Mr. Sim Kalayong, a Filipino from Philippines, Project Coordinator, Petroleum Policy and Management PPM Project, CCOP, Technical Secretariat, Thailand. Now, the strategic focus of this program was this: to develop system that would, first of all, number one, make CCOP Technical Secretariat a Geoscience Knowledge Organisation. Two, to enable the member countries of CCOP to effectively preserve and manage the knowledge learned from their participation in various CCOP capacity building activities and harness this knowledge to contribute for the sustainable development of the upstream petroleum sector. And finally, enable the member countries to render better services to the public and the oil companies through efficient and fast access to information. That was the focus of the program. So as I indicated earlier on, after the program was completed, we had lots of discussion, and that led to the implementation of the other two major programs. However, there was another factor that contributed and provided the context for the implementation of the other two programs, and that was the findings that was generated by the midterm review offered by the Petroleum Policy and Management Project, which I will talk about it a while later. So at this point of time, what I'll do is that I need to highlight my appreciation to these two gentlemen, that's Mr. Chen and Mr. Sim, because they were responsible for making all the arrangement, all the coordination to make these two programs really possible. And of course, their assistant contributed tremendously to the success of the two programs. Now, what I'll do next is I will highlight to you this particular abstract. This is really a public document, but I find it very interesting. Okay, and the two of them here. We have your chapter number 7 here. Okay, the title of this abstract and this findings goes like this. The title is Post PPM Project Proposals, and it says here, given below are brief outlines of 3 proposed projects post PPM that have arisen as priorities during the course of consultations undertaken for this review. So I will zoom in only on one project, and the project that relates to the practice of knowledge management. And it is provided under Chapter 7.1. And the heading is Knowledge Management in Petroleum Resources Management. And it says here, having the benefits of comprehensive information of CCOP activities in the petroleum sector in the past years, we strongly recommend that the next step CCOP should take is in the management of this accumulated knowledge, so that this knowledge can be harnessed to contribute to the sustainable development of the petroleum sector. The second point, knowledge management in the oil and gas sector has increased over the last several years, as companies as well as national oil companies are going global. All companies want to have all available lessons learned, data and information through rapid and virtual access to a global network of knowledge depositories to better predict the actual and reduce uncertainties in prospect evaluation and field reserves development. Point 3. CCOP has over the past 40 years accumulated vast amount of data and information on member countries' petroleum sector. And it says here, CCOP can be considered, that's interesting, a Geoscience Knowledge Organisation called GKO. And the second part says, in fact, the PPM expert group implemented by the CCOP Technical Secretariat can be considered as a KM, Yellow Pages of petroleum geoscientists and resource management experts. With powerful computing capabilities, it may be timely to organize the huge accumulation of petroleum data and information under a knowledge management framework and practice. Each member country could be involved initially in a pilot projects managing its own country petroleum sector data and information from the CCOP depositories, documents and publications. Later, the project could be extended to the country's real data and information, for example, pre- and post-drilling evaluation. The next point indicates here, depositories and computing power will be required to capture, store the data, information, lessons learned, good and best practices, and to provide rapid access to this knowledge. Initially, various knowledge depositories could be set up, followed by portal technology later. And the next point indicates NPD and the Norwegian oil companies are strong in knowledge management. They are aware of knowledge management setup and practice and are knowledgeable of knowledge management principles, goals, objectives, and practice in both governmental body and operating oil companies. Thus, they are best equipped to assist the CCOP member countries to set up their KM units. The final part of these findings highlights this. It is crucial, therefore, that PPM project goal and objectives are sustained, as petroleum resource management is a continuous task for each country. The last part indicates one way to sustain the knowledge sharing and networking established to PPM project is to form a community of practice called a COP in petroleum resource management, comprising member countries from CCOP member countries. And the final part indicates the COP could meet once or twice annually to share data and information on updated resource assessment, new entrants to exploration blocks, new plays, discoveries, and field development, reserves addition, production statistics, amendments to fiscal or contractual terms, impending acreage promotion or offerings, and so on. And this talks about the application of the practice of knowledge management here. And the final part, the last line says, CCOP, Technical Secretariat, is therefore the best body to coordinate all these communities of practices and document the outcome of all knowledge sharing. So this basic context provides the fact that CCOP Technical Secretariat must play the role, the engine, the platform to promote the practice of knowledge management. So based on this context that I've just highlighted over here, what happened was, and this was one of the powerful factors that led to my eventual involvement, engagement in these two major programs. So after a lot of dialogue session, what happened was I designed the first highly customized program for CCOP Technical Secretariat, Bangkok, Thailand. Now, and this was the first one that I designed for them. And it was a 3 days practice of knowledge management program. And the participants were senior management and highly technical experts from especially national oil companies and the upstream oil and gas agencies. So the 4 key focus of the first program that I designed included the following. First, the first focus of the program was this. At the end of the 3 days program, it was a 3 days program, all these senior management and technical experts must be equipped with the 8 highly focused capabilities required to systematically manage critical knowledge. At the same time, they must be able to use at least 7 knowledge tools to enable the practice of knowledge management. That was the first objective. The second objective of the program was, by the end of the program, the participants must be able to formulate their respective implementation action plan and at the same time review system together with measurement indicators, including both progress indicators and impact indicators. The third key focus was this. Now, once we have finished the first 2, the participants were required to observe a systematic approach, a structured approach to pioneer the practice of knowledge management when they return to their respective organization. And finally, the fourth objective was, in addition to pioneering this POKM journey for their own division or department, they were also required to assist other practicing communities in their organization to adopt the practice of knowledge management. So essentially, it's to ensure that they also play the role as the POKM coach or POKM facilitator in this case here. Now, very interesting, let me share with you an overview of my international participants, and later on I'll talk to you about the challenges I face in this particular assignment. Now, if you look at the participants list, from Cambodia, we had 2 participants. The petroleum geologist from Cambodian National Petroleum Authority, CNPA. And from China, we had 3 participants. There were the geologists from the Science and Technology Department, SINOPEC, and the geologists from the Exploration and Production Research Institute of SINOPEC, China. So we have 3 of them. And from Indonesia, we had 2 participants, and both of them were from the Research and Development Center for Oil and Gas Technology. Let me guess. And from Korea, we had 2 participants. The first was the Deputy Director from Korea Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Energy. And the second was the Principal Researcher from the Petroleum and Marine Resource Division Korea Institute of Geoscience and Mineral Resources. For Malaysia, we had 2 participants from Petronas. And for the Philippines, we had 2 participants. The first was the Director of Energy Resource Development Bureau, Department of Energy, Energy Center. And the second participant was the Supervising Science Research Specialist from the Department of Energy. For the same division, the Petroleum Resource Development Division, Energy Center. From Thailand, this program we had 7 participants from Thailand, and all of them were senior geologists from 2 major departments. One, the Department of Mineral Resources, and the other one, the Department of Mineral Fuels, DMF, right? And finally, we had 2 participants from Vietnam. They were the senior expert of geoscience from Vietnam Oil and Gas Group, Petro Vietnam, and the other one, manager of technical supervising department, Vietnam Oil and Gas Group, Petro Vietnam. So essentially, these are really highly technical people, and in actual fact, the whole time that we're having together, they only know how to talk about oil and gas. And these are the people that I was dealing with. Very interesting. I will talk about my challenges with these people. What happened was that after the first program that I have designed, developed and customized, it was a huge success. And that led us to the second program having the same objective, to ensure that the participants coming to the program, they were able to get themselves equipped with the highly focused capabilities to manage critical knowledge, to drive breakthrough performance, and to go back to their respective organization to deploy, to initiate the journey, and to assist other practicing community to initiate their respective journey. So in 2008, what happened was this: we extended the original program from 3 days to 4 days, but having the same objective now. And the participants that we had for this program here included 2 participants from Cambodia. They were the petroleum geologists from the Cambodian National Petroleum Authority. And then we had 2 from Indonesia, the head of program, subdivision, divisional program and cooperation, Center for Geological Resources, Agency of Geology, Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. The second participant was a researcher from the R&D Center for Oil and Gas Technology, let me guess. In Korea, we had 2 participants, the senior researcher and the research geologist from Korea Institute of Geoscience and Mineral Resources. And again, from Malaysia this time, we had 3 participants, one from the Minerals and Geoscience Department, Malaysia, the second from TCDM Petroleum Management Unit, and the third participants from Malaysia was from the from PMU, I believe. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, correct. That's right. Yeah, the third one was from PMU. That's correct. Petroleum Resource and Resource Assessment and Marketing. We had 2 participants from the Philippines, and they were both from the same organization, the Petroleum Resources Development Division of Energy Center. And we had 3 this time from Thailand, and all of them were geologists from the Department of Mineral Fuels. Yeah, and the other one from the Department of Mineral Resources. All right. And finally, we had 2 more from Vietnam, the Deputy General Manager, Science and Technology Division of Petro Vietnam, Vietnam Oil and Gas Company, and the other one are geology, a senior expert of geology from Petro Vietnam, right? So all these are oil and gas people. Now, let's look at the outcome of these 2 programs that I have conducted. I have documented the analysis relating to the challenges that I faced in these 2 programs. Now, so question, what were the challenges that I faced facilitating these 2 programs? 1, language. There was a huge gap in the ability in the command of English language. And they make it extremely difficult for me. That was the most obvious challenge. So in order that I can ensure that the program was eventually successful, what happened was that to address these challenges, I had to, number one, speak slowly. Number two, and have to use less technical terms and less technical knowledge management jargons and make it as simple as possible. And number three, the biggest headache was because of English issues over here. What happened was that I have to use highly customized examples, because if I talk about illustrations relating to oil and gas, it makes it very much easier for them to comprehend. So I had to do a lot of customization. So all examples, all illustrations were related to all aspects of generally upstream oil and gas organization. So I have to go through and draw my examples from global companies like Shell, like ExxonMobil, and BP, and all the stuff over here. And the final part was this, because of the language issue, what happened was this. We actually, during the program, challenging but interesting, use translation. Like for instance, so we have a expert, let's say for example from China or from Korea, who has a much better command of English, and the colleague who came along did not have a good command of English. So what happened was that we have to talk, and one party get the information from me, and they themselves, among themselves, they do their own translation. So it did slow down the process slightly, but then eventually, as we went along, we could understand each other. Right? So the real challenge, the first main challenge was language. That's number one. Second challenge that I faced facilitating this highly customized program for international participants here. The second one was what? Entry level to the program. Some of the participants have fairly good knowledge about knowledge management, essentially because in their organizations they have already started practicing knowledge management to some extent. They have started talking about knowledge management. And then you have the other participants who came into the program with practically no knowledge about what knowledge management is all about. We talk about KM. The first thing in the mind was KM. Oh, it stands for kilometer. Yeah? So it's like really practically no knowledge. So because of that, I had to deliver the program based on this principle. That is, I focusing on very basic terms, and then from basic, generally moving the level upwards. Of course, for those who have practically no knowledge, they were happy. However, for those participants that had knowledge prior to the program, they found that, wow, this is really a drag on them. So what I did was to address this challenge was I got those participants that had better exposure or better understanding of knowledge management to act as my co-coach. What does it mean? It means that in the program, I get them involved to do some sharing of their prior experiences, sharing of some of the obstacles, some of the benefits they derive from practicing KM, and so they're pretty happy. They're playing the role as my co-coach. And that was the strategy that I used to move along in this assignment. That was my second biggest challenge. The third challenge was this: the size of the organization. You could have a participant coming from a company that's relatively small, and the other one coming from Sinopec that is very huge. So because of the mere difference in organizational size, in terms of number of employees, in terms of the size of projects they undertake, so when I did my presentation, it meant different things to different people. So because of the reason, I really had to, okay, this proposal I'm making, it's relevant for company of this size. But if you want to take it to a bigger organization, some customization must take place. So for all examples, I have to do like, you know, one for a small organization, one for a mid-sized company, and one for a much larger setup in this case here. And that was the kind of challenge that I faced. The fourth major challenge was this. All these participants, they are very senior, very technical people. So their speed, their pace of learning were different. And also they're from different culture and different countries. You know, some could concentrate longer, some just cannot focus in the program. Their learning style was different, their ability to absorb information was different, and the ability to concentrate were also different. Yeah? And so because of this reason, what happened? To address this challenge, what I had to do is all the afternoon sessions, on first day, second day, or the third day, for all the afternoon sessions, I got them together, engaged them together to go through work assignments together, promote knowledge sharing, collaboration. And true enough, when we put them together in the afternoon to the process of sharing, process of collaboration, challenging each other's ideas, challenging each other's cultural differences, true enough, it actually achieved high level knowledge, which means to suggest that all the time, in fact, every day, at the end of the day, by 5 o'clock or 5:30 or even 6 p.m., the participants finally got the message. Yeah, because why? Because when they had this opportunity to do lots of sharing, they were able to achieve a high level of knowledge equilibrium. It was fun for some of them, frustrating at times, but eventually it achieved what we wanted to achieve. So these were the four major challenges that I faced, and the corresponding solutions and strategies that I adopted, you know, to address this. So to me, it was also a learning experience in any case. Yeah. Now, so at this point of time, what I'll do is that I will just show you. All right. This is, yeah, by the way, this is the CCOP newsletter, yeah, which was given to me. It's also publicly available anyway. And you can see that in the CCOP newsletter, they have a lot of activities, experts visits, seminars, knowledge transfer sessions. So you can see that on all the pages, you will see a lot of this kind of expert sharing, seminars, brainstorming sessions taking on throughout the entire year. Yeah? And at the back, you also see here that they have these technical people. They are really cool when it comes to generating technical papers. You have long lists of publication, and you have a long list, you know, of calendars of events. And this is like the activity for the year, all right? And this is one of the CCOP newsletter that I gotten from the assignment. And I got another souvenir from them, and this is a souvenir, all right? And it's the handbook, A World of Difference, yeah? And this captures the 40 years of historical development of CCOP Technical Secretariat and for CCOP. And here it highlights all the milestones, all the contributions and the milestones, yeah, development for CCOP. And that's why it says here, A World of Difference, and 40 years of the CCOP, 1966 to 2006. This is a very good souvenir because as I ran through all the pages, it gave very good picture relating to the initial starting point until 2006. All right, now, so in conclusion, if you look at this assignment, indeed it was a very tiring to me. You know, it was a very tiring assignment because I had to do a lot of work preparation before the programs, especially looking into all the case studies, looking into all the technical illustrations and all the examples to be provided. But of course, though tiring and lots of preparation to be done, of course, at the end of the day, it was still indeed a very professionally satisfying program. experience, especially the one in 2007 and the one in 2008. And of course, to make it more meaningful, the participants indeed were very eager to learn, high level of commitment, and most important, even though, in spite of the fact that they had this huge cultural difference, some of them, they were still very friendly people. And that really is a real big plus point for the entire assignment. Yeah? So it's indeed a memorable assignment, and overall, as I said, I have enjoyed it, and it was professionally, to me, rewarding. Right? Now, this is the end of what I want to share with you. Perhaps I will be meeting you soon, or in the very near future. So with this, I'm Frankie, signing off. Cheers. Bye-bye to all of you. All right?